Okay, guys. Well, it's been a while since I did a live chat, so I thought I'd launch one, and we'll keep the topic open. We'll talk about generic 3D stuff. So anything that you want to ask, anything that you want to discuss, let's see if some people come in so we can have a chat. Okay, looks like some people came in. Milobowski Gaming. Okay, cool. Hi, MST. Hello. Good morning or afternoon or evening, depending on where you guys are from. Yeah, like I was just saying, what I want to do today is a kind of a generic 3D chat on anything 3D related. So, you know, keep the questions coming and I'll see if I can help out you guys, right? Hello, hello, hello. So let me ask you guys, where are you guys calling or chatting from? What country do you live? Kind of wondering. Greece. Oh, nice. India, Germany. Ah, guten Morgen. Australia, down under. New Zealand. Wow. USA, Michigan. So you are working late or early or? Egypt, India. Awesome, awesome, awesome. So let's see. Let the questions come in, guys and girls. So let's see. Can we create a fog and mental ray? Well, actually, you can, and I did a video on that. So check my channel. Just type in fog and mental ray, and you'll be fine. Let's see what else. Sorry that. My dog's freaking out. Ukraine. Nice. Okay, so what have you guys been up to 3D wise? What are you working on? What kind of challenges do you have? What kind of questions do you have? What do you want me to deal with? Let's see. Mano's saying, how can I get my first freelance job while there are experienced guys offering to do the job for a dirt cheap price? Well, first of all, people that work for free or almost for free are kind of ruining the business, in my opinion. But that said, getting work as a freelance artist is very much related to personal reputation. You will at some point get hired because they want you for the job and not somebody else. It's not always just the quality of the end product, but it's also, are you available? Are you reliable? Do you do what you say? Do you say what you do? And once companies feel that they're comfortable working with you, they will come back to you again and again. Now, the problem is, how do you get that first deal? Not by working for free, for sure. You could work for like a collaboration. You do something for them, they do something for you. So technically, you're not working for free. But it's very important to make sure that you participate in forums, in challenges, like, for example, the 3D modeling challenge that I'm writing out right now. Because, for example, one of the artists that won my challenge 3 times in a row has basically created a full-time job out of 3D modeling because of that, okay? So that's a really good way to promote your work, you know, without it costing you any money. And in the same process, you might even win something cool, okay? So, Manos, please let me know if that answers your question. Let's see. I'm seeing a comment about batch rendering not working. I assume that is batch rendering in Mental Ray. And if that's the case, let me know, and then I will be able to answer your question. Now, the chat window is disappearing on and off, so it's kind of hard. Let me see. Do studios develop their own software and plugins, or do they use standard software? Well, for the most part, they use standard software. Sometimes, if they're really large studios, they'll have their own software. For example, RenderMan developed by Pixar, but keep in mind, they developed that back in the day when there was nothing available. Nowadays, there are quite a few things available, so there's really no need. But there are a lot of third-party plugins for Maya and 3ds Max and whatnot that are used by a bunch of people. So if I, for example, work in ZBrush, my layout can be quite different than yours because I'm using aftermarket plugins, okay? So let's see. MST is asking, what's the industry expectation for your portfolio when you are a fresh graduate? I'm into 3D environment modeling, want to be in the film industry. Okay. Well, what's important is that based on your portfolio, the potential client has a good idea of what you are looking for. So if you have your portfolio all over the place, so it has rigging, animation, environmental modeling, game design, movie aspects, VFX, all that stuff, they really don't know what you're looking for and what you're aiming at. So if you want to be very specific about what you want, then tailor your portfolio based on that. If you want to work in the movie industry, put stuff in your portfolio that is movie related, okay? And then as far as expectations, only post your best work. They know that you're new if you mention that, so they will not expect you to have, you know, the Hollywood blockbuster quality, but they must know that what you do well, okay? Does that answer the question? Let's see, what else? Any other software that gives features like muscle system except Houdini? So muscle system in the sense of in your model, or do you mean muscle simulations by rigging? Because, for example, there's a complete muscle system in Maya, and if it's about, you know, visually having muscles on a model, you can of course use ZBrush. Let's see, can I make a tutorial series for Blender? No, I cannot. I could, but I have decided not to do that, because if I do that, I will have to do Maya, Blender, 3ds Max, and so forth. Let's see, Snake and Ladder is saying ZBrush tutorials for beginners. I started doing that recently. So there are a couple of videos up there, and yeah, more to come. Okay, so MST is saying they want picture quality. It wouldn't make sense for somebody that just graduated to be able to create picture quality, because what does that say about people that have been in the industry for 20 years, that they didn't gain any skills? That wouldn't make sense. Okay, for the Maya contest, can we render in a different program? Well, my 3D modeling contest is not a Maya contest. It's a 3D modeling contest. So you can use any 3D software you want. You can use Blender, you can use 3ds Max, you can use Maya, you can use ZBrush, you can use whatever, okay? Okay, can you please make a tutorial for making complete animation short movie from modeling to animation, top to bottom? Now, the thing is, a complete animation, to create that takes months. I typically have 1 day from start to finish. So although I could do a summary, and I actually have, you know, what all the steps are in the process, actually doing an animation in that time frame would be impossible. Okay, so Ella is saying, would I suggest learning through college or university, or is it possible to learn online? Yes and yes. Would I go to college, university, if I had the funds to do that, if I had the time to do that, and if that was available to me? Of course. I would do that, because it is a quick learning path to get a lot of knowledge in a fairly short time. But again, it costs a lot of money and it costs a lot of time. Is it possible to do this without a formal college education in that field? Absolutely. Potential suppliers, not suppliers, potential clients are interested in your output. So if your work is good, your work is good, period. Let's see. Okay, so I see a couple of questions about Ubisoft. Now, keep in mind that Ubisoft is just an example of a company like many others. So I cannot speak specifically to what Ubisoft expects from people. But when it comes to game engines, it's very much related to how big is a game engine. Is this a 3-person company or a 500-person company? Huge, huge, huge difference. In a very large company, it's very hard to get in. And even if you get in, you're probably doing a very small and very specific task. If you get hired by a game studio with 3 employees, you'll probably be doing all sorts of things. You'll start off with the basic stuff. You will, do errands, get coffee for people. But at the same time, you'll learn a lot. So, So Jake is saying, am I streaming from a DSLR? Why are you asking? Is there something wrong with the quality? Let's see. What's my opinion on Houdini? Yeah, Jake, this is not a DSLR. This is just a very good quality webcam. Okay, it's an expensive one, but it's good. So Houdini is node based. It's kind of, if you don't know what node based is, it's kind of like what you have in Hypershade in Maya, where you have inputs and outputs connected to each other with a bunch of lines, and it looks really complicated and whatnot. My opinion is that Houdini is absolutely awesome. You can do very, very cool things. You can create all sorts of effects, like a smoke and fire and whatnot. But at the same time, for me personally, and I really need to specifically mention that, for me, perfectly, the Houdini for me is not visual enough. Okay, so this is very much, I'm very much a visual person. I want to see what I'm working on. Node-based working like Houdini is connecting the dots without actually seeing what you're doing straight on. So, but again, it's very personal. Okay, what does it take to start your own animation studio? Oh, wow. That takes a lot. The thing is, I mean, you can start an animation studio at your kitchen table, but the thing is, I assume you want to make money, and I assume you want to make that your business, right? So the investments are huge, especially if you have employees, because you need very sturdy computers and systems. And if you got more people working for you, you need more systems. You need software, you need all that kind of stuff. So it's very, 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 very expensive. And it's also very tricky because, are you going to get hired? Are you going to have enough money every month, right? So, zoute koffiekoekjes. I kind of guess you're Dutch. I'm pretty sure of it. So, any success on Sketchfab sales? Not yet. I'm crazy busy for the simple reason that I am preparing for my trip to Animago in Munich in a couple of weeks, where I'm going to be doing a presentation. And hopefully later on, I'll be able to present part of that on my channel, so you guys can enjoy that as well. But if any of you are able to go to Animago in Munich, that would be cool, so we could meet in person and hang out. Let's see what else. Okay, is it good to have some kind of degree or certificate for getting a job apart from the portfolio? Well, again, if you decide that you want to work for a very large studio, it will certainly help, because it gives you kind of a heads up. It gives you one foot in the door, if you know what I mean. If you have a bunch of certificates, if you have a university degree and whatnot, the person is more likely to listen to you. But that said, if you have a strong online presence and you have, won challenges, you are on forums, you come up with intelligent responses to people, and most of all, you conduct yourself as a professional, then you'll be fine. Let's see what's going on here. Have you ever heard of a college for creative studies in Detroit? I have not, to be honest. Funny enough, most people think of California when they think of 3D and 3D animation and whatnot. When we look at a global situation, it seems that Montreal now is a very strong 3D hub, and in Europe, Madrid in Spain and Munich in Germany. Okay, let's see. MST is saying, when submitting a portfolio to 3D industry, do you have to submit drawings too? You don't have to, because it all depends on what you're doing. If you're a 3D modeler and you model things based on concept work in 2D done by others, that's fine. However, if you are also a 2D concept artist and you have the ability to do that, I would certainly add it, because this will show the potential client that you have more skills than just 3D modeling. Game industry future in Canada, that I would say is awesome. Like I said, Montreal is one of the global hubs now for 3D. Keep in mind that the game industry is a multi-billion-dollar industry, so you would be in a very good place. Let's see. Is architectural 3D design freelance work or not really? Oh, very much so. Very, very much so. Not only for, let's say, project developers or builders or architects like that, but also sometimes you need an architectural visualization for a backdrop in, let's say, a fashion shoot for photographers or whatnot. And people usually work with people, not necessarily big companies. There's a statement that I learned many, many years ago, and I think this applies to almost all of us. Big companies tend to work with big companies. And what I used to say when I was a consultant, and I still am, but a different one, is elephants dance with elephants. So big companies work with big companies. But the problem with big companies is that they're not really flexible. They take a long time to make decisions. They're typically more expensive and whatnot. So I, as an individual, work with large companies because I know this. So I can work faster, I can work cheaper, and still make a good living, okay? Let's see, do I have a tutorial on weight painting? Yes, I do. I did what was that thing again? I did a video series where I did the whole thing. So the modeling and the rigging and the skin painting and all that. Let's see. Do I motivate 3D architectural visualization as a future job or not? Yeah, for sure. But the thing is, when it comes to 3D in general, it's very much a solistic job. So the thing that I hear most every day is people are struggling to find work. People are struggling to make it as a freelance artist. People are struggling to get hired. My personal opinion on that, the reason for that is that as a 3D artist, you are also a business person. You need to understand finance. You need to understand planning. You need to understand logistics. You need to understand sales. You need to understand all of these things. Most people in 3D don't spend any time on that at all. They think I'm good at 3D, so somebody should hire me. Well, you basically have a product in your hands, which is your talent or your model, and you have to find a market for it and sell it. So that's the thing. So Zota Coffee Cookies is saying, what kind of work do I do outside of YouTube? I work as a freelance artist for clients, and I also work as a 3D consultant. So I help companies to transition into a 3D workflow. Let's say product development departments that are working in 2D currently and want to transition into 3D. And I also act as a speaker or a keynote speaker at international events related to 3D. So does that answer your question? Let's see. Jake is saying, what was my career highlight and why? Well, the thing with my career is that I have been everywhere and I basically have done everything. So are you specifically talking about 3D or are you talking about in general? So Sean is saying, not good at drawing, would still be able to learn 3D modeling. Of course, absolutely. I mean, it helps, but okay. So Jake's saying, let's go with 3D. All right. Well, funny enough, I mean, for those of you who don't know, I have been a business consultant and a manager and an executive level director for many, many, many years. But at the same time, I've been a 3D artist. Now, for the last, I don't know, 6-7 years, I've been doing this full time. Before that, it was kind of a side job because, like most of you, having a hard time making a full-time living out of 3D. My highlight, however, is where I get the opportunity to help people that really need it. Now, I tend to work with universities a lot around the world, and there was a project where a university in Brazil was developing an application for autistic children to have words visualized so that they would learn to read and write easier. I helped to create that. That was very successful, and it helped the kids a lot. And later on, it actually became a commercial product. So I would say all around, that was a really successful opportunity. And yeah, for me, that was an absolute highlight. So it looks like, oh, there you go. I thought I was lost the chat window. So Jake, does that answer the question? Okay, so Kushal is saying, how important is storyboarding during animation? Storyboarding is absolutely crucial, important, 5 stars, 27 exclamation marks. Without storyboarding, basically animation would be a very risky thing, would potentially cost way too much money and go the wrong way for sure. So what kind of companies would hire a 3D architectural visualization artist? Any company that needs architectural visualization. Now, I know that sounds like a stupid answer, but that's the truth. I mean, you can have a bakery wanting, work like that. Let's see, in the number of job openings, I see that they want experience building up a rigged model for animation that have muscle structure. I honestly cannot find any automation. Okay, well, Ella, I don't know how experienced you are in the industry and how many years experience you have. Whenever they are referring to people that can create a rigged, somewhat realistic biped model, with a muscle structure, then either they are looking for somebody with very, very high level experience, or they're just asking for the moon, hoping that somebody will walk in that knows how to do this stuff and they can get that person for cheap. I mean, I know thousands and thousands of 3D artists. What you're writing right here, I would say I maybe know 5 people that can do this. Do I think you can learn 3D and subject like math and engineering at the same time? Well, yes, you can, and I'm the living proof because I am a trained mechanical engineer / 3D artist. So Ella, very inexperienced. Well, in that case, Ella, really, when you read something like that, just ignore it. I mean, that is like, let's say, just to give you a comparison, right? Let's say I have an auto garage and I'm looking for a mechanic, right? If the market is so full of people that are qualified, what I will do is try to get the best possible person for the lowest possible price. So for my little 2-car garage, I would ask for somebody that worked on a Formula 1 team, right? And if by any chance I get that person, you know, okay, so Ella, you're saying an entry-level job at WIDA. Well, WIDA is one of the top companies in the world when it comes to 3D. And most people I know would basically give their left arm and their right leg to work there. So I'm not surprised that they have such a high standard. So Sean is saying, have Blender and Maya installed. Maya will expire in a couple of years. Should I start with Blender or Maya? Well, nowadays, people that work in Blender do great things, and they even have companies now working with Blender, and people using Blender win challenges and whatnot. So that's awesome. But the thing is with Maya, I mean, Maya has a lot of money coming in. It's an Autodesk product. So they are quicker in developing, they're quicker in following industry standards. And for that reason, they are one of the industry standards, okay? Now, the license that you have is probably a student license. I assume you're learning Maya for some reason because you want to make it your occupation and whatnot, right? So at some point, you're gonna have to pay, simple as that. Now, Maya is stupid expensive, but that said, if it's one of your core software packages, then, you know, it is what it is. Let's see. Not allowed to charge professionals. Yeah. So Rosalind is saying, it's not too late to change profession to CG artist, 34 years old. And you've been a professional photographer for 8 years. Well, first of all, Rosalind, I am a professional photographer as well. I made the switch to become a full-time freelance 3D artist at the age of about 45, right? So, and the fact that you have a photography background is awesome. That will help you so much. Is it going to be easy? No. Will you have to be able to learn a lot in a short time? Of course. But, you know, if you are willing, go for it. Let's see, they have a large effort going to hire from within New Zealand. They seem to be emphasis that those in the country who could self-teach. Well, Ella, the thing is this, if you can sit down with WIDA or WEDA, whatever they're called, and at any level, what I would personally say is, listen, I am inexperienced, but I'm passionate, and I will work my butt off if you give me an opportunity. That's what I would do. And I would take a sleeping bag, and I would sit in front of their door, and I would bug them for days and weeks and months if I have to, until somebody finally says, okay, just to get rid of you, come in and I'll hire you. I mean, landing a job at WIDA is like walking on the moon. I mean, they are awesome. So is a physics degree useful in learning, gaining jobs? I wouldn't, well, indirectly. I would say physics is important to understand what you're doing in 3D. It's part of it. I wouldn't say it gives you a heads up as far as being able to get a job faster, unless you are working on 3D simulations that are relevant to physics. For example, I did simulations for universities in the UK where they were working with nanomolecules, for example. So scientific. I did medical simulations for a university in Sweden. So your understanding of physics will help you to work with customers that have a physics requirement, if that makes sense, right? So Interactive Dealer is saying, do we need a good topology for hard surface modeling? Well, if you're going to have a hard surface model that is highly detailed and you're going to use that to bake it on a low poly, maybe not that important, but nevertheless, I would say always go for a good topology, regardless. Okay, Miguel is saying, what's your opinion on working for free at the beginning to join the industry? Well, I have a very simple answer. Do not do that. Do not. Clients will not take you serious. Once you have done something for free, they will never take you serious again. Now, keep in mind, you don't always have to ask for money, but you can ask for something else, right? You can ask for free training. You can ask for collaboration opportunities. You can ask for, anything that has value to you, okay? But don't work for free because they will promote your name, because they will whatever. Because if you go on to ArtStation, there are thousands of artists there, right? So if they put your name up there and write something, who cares, right? Okay, Maya or Max, which is used most in game and movie studios? Well, let me break this down for you guys, okay? So you got Blender. Blender is completely free. Has not always been free, but nowadays it's completely free, and basically you can use that for all sorts of stuff, right? Then within the Autodesk arena, you have Maya LT that has specifically been developed for game development. Then you have regular Maya, which is more related to animation and modeling for movies. Then you have 3ds Max, which is more related to architectural design, interior design, and whatnot. And then you got, for example, ZBrush for digital sculpting, Mudbox for sculpting, Keyshot for, let's say, product visualization. So, for jewelry and for product display and whatnot. Okay. Okay, let's see what else. I like to design residential architecture. Okay, residential architecture. Well, design or model, big difference. Where do you search for your first job? Okay, so let me address that whole job thing, because apparently everybody is struggling with this, right? If you have no experience, of course, you need to study and learn and become better. Now, how do you become better? By learning from others, not just in school, but also online, and practice every day, okay? Now, the thing is this. The whole community is online nowadays, so it doesn't really matter where you live. You can live in Spain and work for a company in California, no problem at all, right? The thing is, there are forums online where artists meet and they exchange thoughts and they teach each other and they learn and they share. And the people that hire other people are members of those forums as well. So it's important for you to establish personal branding. People need to understand who you are, why you are who you are, okay? So I see a lot of people, for example, misbehaving themselves in forums. Keep in mind that other people see this and you will get a bad reputation. And if you get a bad reputation, you can forget it. If people start to understand that you're serious, you're professional, you're good in your job, your work is progressing, you give feedback to others and you help them, you will go up in value and it's more likely that you will be hired. Okay, so Ella's asking ArtStation. Is that an example of one of these forums? ArtStation is not a forum. ArtStation is a portfolio website. So anybody who's anybody that has any link to 3D has a page on ArtStation that they use as their portfolio. Now, what I'm talking about, for example, and I'll just plug that in here for those of you who don't know, hang on. Okay, so I'm going to paste a link right here. This is a link to my personal Hangout group. I currently have about 2,800 3D artists in there, and they talk to each other, they ask each other questions, they learn from each other, and so forth. Okay. Okay, what else, guys? Let's see. Houdini, have I ever tried AMD Pro Render? I have, and now I'm fully dedicated to Redshift. Okay, what else? Okay, any more questions, guys? I'm actually surprised that the audio is okay, because usually YouTube freaks out at some point and shuts down the audio, but it seems that we're still okay. So, okay, so let me ask you this. Any of you going to be at Animago in Munich this year? Vahe is saying, do I know photogrammetry? I do. So like I said, I'm going to be speaking at Animago again this year. And if you want to check that out, it's www.animago.com. It's basically a congress, a business event where companies like Disney, Pixar, and DreamWorks and Sony and whatnot come together. They talk about developments. They have people there that talk about the industry, and I've been invited to do that again, so kind of cool. But it's also a great opportunity to meet other 3D artists. Now, in the past, I have met people there that are now members of my forum, so I was kind of wondering whether you guys would be going or not. Okay, so I am potentially going to be speaking at Move Summit in Scotland early next year, and potentially in Los Angeles and in New York as well. But I'll keep you guys posted. If you guys join my forum, the link that I just posted, I'll keep you informed about that. All right. Okay, so Ella is saying, would I consider paid advertising in the sense that I would pay for ads on Facebook to promote my business? Is that what you mean? Maybe it depends. I would do that at a point where you are actually an established business or an established artist. But the problem there is this: once you're established, you have an income, so you don't really need to, right? So I would do it on occasion to promote certain aspects or certain promotions, but typically I wouldn't, because money is always tight as a 3D artist. Advertising is expensive. And I personally think that nobody would hire me as a 3D artist based on an ad. They would do that based on having talked to me, met me somewhere, talked to me online, saw my work, talked about my work, and get a sense of who I am. Because an advertisement is an advertisement, right? You're going to say in an ad that you're great, right? That's why it's an ad. I don't look at ads where people say they're great. I want to see that they're great. Let's see. What do you think for the new drawing tablet, the XP pen? The XP. That's a pen display brand, right? Now I'm currently. I tried Wacom, I tried UG, and right now I have a Parblo, and I did reviews on those, and I'm really happy with the Parblo. It's way cheaper than a Wacom, and it does a perfect job. So let's see what else. What are recruiters looking for when they look for an intern? Well, the thing with internships is I don't know if I can say this, but usually internships are arranged in the sense that the people that get a spot as an intern, they get that spot because they know somebody who knows somebody. And hang on, I'll just type in that brand. Hang on. Yeah, so you know, they will know somebody that works there, their father, their neighbor, their whatever. And again, if you don't have that opportunity, you know, network is everything. So make sure you have a page on LinkedIn. LinkedIn, I don't know if any of you guys use that, but LinkedIn is so important. I have a profile on LinkedIn. I have about 3,200 artists and people in the industry in my network. And it is so important because anytime any of these people have anything going on, projects, people they want to hire or whatever, I will always be notified through LinkedIn. So for those of you who don't know what that is, there you go. So basically LinkedIn is, I would call it the professional version of Facebook, right? So LinkedIn won't let you sign in because you're below. Since when do you need to be older than 16? Strange. Never knew that. That's kind of weird because I know for a fact that there are people out there that are business owners and they're 16. So why wouldn't you be able to have a LinkedIn page at 16? Kind of weird. Anyway, I would find a way around that. Not going to tell you how, but I would think about that. So what's the best pen tablet for sculpting? I don't know. It kind of depends on what your preference is. But let me tell you this. Like I said, I tried Wacom, I tried UG, and right now I have a Powerblow. I'm really happy with the Powerblow. The thing with a pen display is connectivity. It's whether the hardware works smoothly with your hardware and or not. Now, I had some issues with the UG. I have no issues whatsoever with the Powerblow. Wacom typically is fine, but again, Wacom is crazy expensive. And when it comes to sculpting, it's very much about pressure sensitivity, right? I think the Powerblow is fine. It works like a charm, so cool. Let's see. Do I think a tablet is essential for sculpting? 100% absolutely. You cannot do digital sculpting with a mouse. It's like painting your house with a hammer. It doesn't work. Let's see. What are good things to put in your portfolio? Well, I talked about this a while back. When you look at 3D artists in general, what you typically want to achieve is a situation where you are considered a T model. So the letter T, like this, a T model artist, okay? The top horizontal part is that you know a lot of different things, but not in great detail. So you know a little bit about modeling, rigging, animation, and all that kind of stuff. The T part of the T right here is that you got one specialty. So you have generic knowledge about a lot of things, and there's one area where you're really strong. And depending on what they're looking for, you will either have two portfolios or you will have one section in your portfolio where you talk about your specialty, okay? Okay, guys, well, I want to go on for, let's say, another 13 minutes, okay? So if you have any questions, can I do a tutorial on texturing? I think I did about 200 videos on texturing. Okay, so Maya to Substance Painter to Maya, I did that, but I did that for Arnold, not RenderMan. And the only difference there is whenever you create texture maps in Substance Painter and you export them, for example, in the video that I did, I exported them for use in Arnold. You then go into Maya, you apply a default Arnold material, and you start to plot the maps into the slots in your Arnold material. Now, for RenderMan, you do exact same thing, but different slots. So pretty much the same. Let's see, can I do Maya to Unreal Engine? I have in the past. I have done videos where I created models, did UVing, did texturing, and actually imported them into Unreal. So I have that on my channel. Keep in mind that I have well over 900 videos on my channel right now. So are any of you participating in the ongoing 3D modeling challenge that's going on right now? So Manuel is asking about matte paint. Okay, so I assume you're talking about digital painting like backdrops and whatnot, right? That is a tricky business to get into, but nevertheless, it is a really popular one. But you have to be good, because whenever you have concept work for a movie or a game or whatnot, that's where these people come in. They do visualizations of environments and whatnot. So if you're really good at it, you should have no problem. Leonie, and I guess she's Dutch as well, based on her last name. Are there jobs out there for riggers in the film industry? Will that require an in-depth knowledge about programming? Programming, no. Typically scripting, well, there is some scripting in rigging, but not so much. Are there rigging jobs in the film industry? Yes, for sure, because more and more real life actors are replaced by characters because it's cheaper and safer. So for sure. Does that mean that there are a bunch of jobs out there? No. It is, I would say, almost as rare as becoming an astronaut. But nevertheless, if that's what you really want to do, go for it. So SRT Workshop is saying there's a challenge. Yes, there is. There is a 3D modeling challenge going on right now. It's closing on November 15th. But keep in mind, this is a 3D modeling challenge for professionals only, okay? I have done many, many challenges for years. This one specifically is for professional artists only. Now, what does that mean? That means that you at some point now or in the past have been employed as a 3D artist, or are currently working or have been working in the past as a freelance artist, or have made money selling 3D models. Now, the prizes are awesome. There are literally, I think the total prize amount is something like $4,000. So definitely check that out. My latest 3D modeling challenge on my YouTube channel, okay? I'll see if I can get a quick link here. Hang on. For participating once again. And then finally, okay, so I'm going to paste a link here to that 3D modeling challenge video, okay? Let's see. Can I do an IK-FK switch video? That's a question by Jasper. I have, so check out my channel. Do you know if it's possible to self-teach mocap skills? Yes, but it's expensive because you need gear. Do you measure following freelancer budget setup viable as my LT, modeling, animation, and mudbox sculpture? Yeah, but what's the setup? I mean, you're talking about a budget setup, but you don't mention the setup. Well, you got the software, mudbox, substance with an octal render. Yeah, that'd be okay, but you know, I assume you're talking about the hardware. Is it okay to ask and submit your portfolio to 3D industry even though they are not having an opening? It is, but if you want to be respectful about it, you would ask first. Now, for example, if you're on LinkedIn and there's somebody that's an art director and you know that they're currently not hiring and you have that person in your network, or you want to get that person in your network, you would ask. If they say it's okay, you send in your portfolio. Keep in mind, they probably get portfolios in every day, like 10 or 20 or 50 a day. So be careful with that. So SRT Workshop, I technically have sold a model before, but not proud of it, so it don't count. Well, the truth is it does count. And why am I saying that? Well, having a definition of what the qualification is as a professional, if you're an artist, that is subjective at best. There's no such thing as objectively measuring whether somebody's an artist or not. It's just impossible. So the line that we drew is, okay, have you made money with your work? For example, as a photographer, I get a question, are you a professional photographer? Well, if you have made money as a photographer because you took a photo and got money for it, yes, you are a professional photographer. Does that mean you're a good photographer? No. Same applies for 3D artists. So there's going to be good work and bad work, and we're going to filter that out anyway, but that's a definition, okay? Let's see, the coding plugins, Python, AutoSnap Tune 2, learning Max, Maya, and Nuke Institute, all getting what field is. Learning Max, Maya, and Nuke. Okay, well, I don't understand why you're learning Max and Maya. You know, Nuke is great, of course. But keep in mind that Max and Maya and Nuke, these are tools in a toolbox. What you're learning is pipeline and workflow. If you can work in Maya in 3D, you will really very quickly get up to speed, for example, in Blender or 3ds Max in 3D. What you're learning is how 3D works, you know, the X, Y, Z, and the faces and the Polycount and so forth. Okay, good question about Polycount. And I actually talked about this before, but I think this is an important one, okay? So high poly, low poly, how high, how low, and whatnot, okay? There's kind of a guideline here. So first, there's a distinction between games and non-games. Games are real-time rendering, because if you have an object on your screen and you're playing a game and you have that object turned to the left, it will render at the point in time when you turn to the left. That means that for games, there's always a requirement to have a low poly because it's a big strain on systems. If you have a render in a movie, it's sequential because you have the first keyframe, second keyframe, or frames in animation, and once it's rendered, you're done. You're never going to go back and render it again, okay? So you have more Polycount budget in film than you have in game. Now, in games, you have different type of games. You have a game on your cell phone. You have a game on a console. You have a game on PC. And they all, again, have different, you know, types and demands. So the lowest Polycount is probably on a cell phone game. Maybe 150, 200, 300 Polycount. If you go to a regular PC or console game for a not so important prop, let's say 1,000, 1,500. If it's a character, it can go up to, let's say, even maybe 100,000. If you are working for something in a movie, it can be a couple of 100,000. And if you're talking about a high poly model that's going to be baked onto a low one, it can be millions. Hopefully that answers the question. Let's see, selling 3D models on Unity Asset Store count as freelance. Well, if you made money doing that, yeah, for sure. Okay, Ella, you are asking some really good questions. Thank you for that. Are there any very common, easy to name offhand errors that are commonly made in 3D modeling that would put you off as an employer? Yes, for sure. The most important one is edge flow, edge flow, edge flow, edge flow, edge flow, edge flow. When I see a model, I want to see the wireframe of the model. And if the edge flow is not clean, not a good flow, if the topology isn't right, that ruins everything. You can have the best render in the world, you can have awesome textures and whatnot. If the edge flow is not good, that's an absolute instant killer, because that is the backbone of everything. Because if you work for a studio, you're working with multiple people in the pipeline, right? Your model will be rigged by somebody else and animated by somebody else. If your model is crap, excuse the language, right? You're going to create problems for everyone. And also, it's proof that you don't know what you're doing. So getting a proper topology, getting a proper edge flow is absolutely crucial. Another thing is proportions and scale. And I repeat this every day. People do a scene where they have a person that's 6 foot tall and then they have a tiny couch or a tiny chair or something. It's just off. Now, there are a lot of websites where you can find exactly measurements of how high is a lantern, how high is a street sign, how wide is a curb, how large is a door. Put the time in to get it right, okay? Does that help, Ella? Okay, so Foxy is saying, how would you develop an effective routine for not only learning 3D, but being able to produce stuff for a portfolio? I'm trying to improve sculpting skills, anatomy. Okay, well, excuse me. One of the things that I would do is challenges. The reason for this is when you participate in challenges, you are pulled out of your comfort zone. You are asked to model something you typically wouldn't do. Now, what I would used to do when people would say, I don't know what the model is, I would say, okay, model the first object you find on your desk, whether it's a paperclip, whether it's your keyboard, your mouse, whatever. Model the first thing you see when you walk into your kitchen. Try to visualize it, look at it, but don't take it to your computer. Just look at it, nothing else, and then try to model it and then compare later. So challenge yourself every day. Okay, so keep the texture density even. Yeah, that is what I was talking about when it comes to tessellation. So for example, if you are stamping stencils in Substance Painter and your texture density is off, your stencil will be off too. So why does the game industry use triangulated topology? What is insane low poly meaning? Okay, first of all, everything is traditionally, from a calculation standpoint, triangulated. Even if you are using poly faces or square faces, a square is two triangles, right? It just doesn't look that way. But the way behind the scenes, like in the engine part of Maya or Blender or whatever, it calculates in triangles. It just doesn't look like that. So triangles are easy to calculate, right? So there's really not a big difference. Why they tend to triangulate for games specifically, I don't know. You could reverse that question and say, why don't they triangulate in other applications? So there you go. Now, as far as insane low poly meaning, well, it's related to the poly count, of course. So the face count of the model. Insane low, that depends on what you're using it for. If you have a AAA plus status game and you're talking about a primary character and you get a Polycount budget of 50,000, that's insane low. That's way too low. If this is something for a mobile game, 500 is low. Okay. Yes, so quads are easier to work with, true. But once you get it into the game engine, you know, you're kind of done there. Let's see, quads allow edge loops. Yeah, exactly. So once you go with your model into the game engine, you're typically not modeling or changing anything on it. Okay. So Alyssa is 10 and wants to talk. Hey, Alyssa. So let's see. Ella is saying, I see a number of people claiming that you no longer need to work your UVs by hand and that there are plugins that will do this process 100% for you. Yes, that's true. But then again, I can automatically paint your house. The thing is, would you be happy with the result? Probably not. When you are UVing a model and you're doing this professionally, UVing becomes a whole different thing. Because what happens in the industry is once you get a 2D concept of a character, right? Front view, side view, T-pose, A-pose, whatnot. And then looking at this, you are required to model it, okay? Now, for you to model it properly and to have a correct edge flow and topology, you need to understand what's going to happen after you are done. Is it going to be rigged? Is it going to be animated? What is going to be rigged? What is the character going to be doing? Is it going to jump, fly, stretch, deform? All of these things are relevant for you as a modeler to understand how to model. And as a result, how to UV. So a fully automated UV process is never going to be able to do this, right? So Zachary is saying, what are my thoughts on tries? What do you mean by that? So Nail and Jenna 3D tutorials. I need to check you out now. Are you on YouTube? Okay, so Zachary, I assume when saying tries, you're talking about triangles. Thank you, Lamar. Well, I think it has been addressed just now. Whenever you're modeling, working with polygonal faces is easier, and a couple of people mentioned that. You can more easily add edge loops and whatnot. Typically, when you import your model into a game engine for use in that game engine, it is triangulated because you no longer need to do that, and calculations based on triangles is easier. All right, let's see. Do I think it's a bad idea to try to learn all aspects of 3D at the same time and 2 solo projects on the go? Yeah, thanks, Alyssa. Let's see. Is it a good idea to do everything at the same time? Well, I guess it kind of depends on your lifestyle. How much time do you have? How intelligent are you? Are you distracted easily? Can you focus for a long period of time? I mean, if you can do all that, great. But you need to consider whether you're happy with the outcome. Do you feel that you progress quick enough that whatever you learn, oh, bye, Lissa. Whatever you learn, you know, is sinking in okay? Let's see. Kappa123. Why and when should you retopologize? Well, for those of you who don't know, typically when you are creating something for a game situation, right? And we talked about the need for low poly models. Now, if you want crazy high detail in your model, you're going to have to bake a normal map, multiple maps, but also a normal map. So you take a crazy high poly model and you project that detail onto your low poly with a bake, okay? Now, depending on your workflow, some people start with a low poly model and then they take a copy of the low poly model and turn that into a high poly model. So the low poly is already okay. But if you started with your high poly model, let's say in ZBrush, there isn't a low poly model. So how are you going to get back to a low poly model with a clean edge flow? Now, what you can do is take that high poly model into Maya, for example, and use quad draw to retopologize it. So you would put literally tiles on it and cover the whole high poly model in a much lower poly fashion. Hope that makes sense. Okay, so Rob Fu was talking about triangles and whether they are a problem. I didn't understand that question as such. Whenever you're modeling, what you want to avoid is n-gons, so anything with more than 4 corners. Triangles are fine because triangles are half of a square, right? Let's see. I want to apply for a 3D modeling job. Should my portfolio include only 3D modeling and UV mapping, of course, or also some texturing skills? If you want to apply for a 3D modeling job, I would certainly include your texturing skills. So Perth is saying, make a video on game environment, trees, cars, tables, machines, all in one video. Modeling, texturing, lighting, rendering. Sure. So you want me to make a video that's about 3 weeks long then? I'm just kidding. problem is this. I used to make videos that would be an hour or more. People simply don't look at these videos, and you cannot do all of this stuff. So on one hand, I get people that ask me to do longer videos. I get people that ask me to do shorter videos. So what I decided to do is on Mondays, I do a deep dive. So I look into a specific section or element of a software package. On Wednesday, I do a regular video where I model something. And on Fridays, I do a bigger project, but do it in a time lapse. Okay. Let's see, ADI, modeling skin pores in ZBrush, and baking maps better than making maps in Mari or Photoshop. I wouldn't compare Mari to Photoshop. It's a totally different thing. Mari is a PBR-based texturing application. Photoshop is not. But using ZBrush and baking maps would be my preference for sure. I mean, you know, if you have that available, yeah. Is it possible to get ZBrush for free? Nope. You mentioned good mesh flows, and since your channel is mostly about my image, do you prefer to use the crease tool? Okay, well, that's a good one. I mean, if you use the crease tool instead of adding edge loop, you don't add additional polycount to your model. So typically that would be a good thing, and you have a lot of control. Now, I personally don't model a lot for game engines, so I'm not that restricted from an edge loop point of view. If I were, I would probably use the crease tool more. But that said, I do not only have Maya on my channel, I have a lot of other things. I do Substance Painter, I do Mudbox, I do ZBrush, I do Marvelous Designer, I do Keyshot, I do 3D Code, I do Marmoset Toolbag, I do all of these software packages. But that said, Maya has a preference for modeling, for sure. Let's see what else. Can I explain how to unwrap high poly soft models? Well, you don't have to unwrap high poly models. The UV mapping and unwrapping is done on low poly models only. So you don't have to UV the high poly model. Just make sure that the UV map is properly done on the low poly. So when you bake the detail from the high to the low, then the detail knows where to go, right? Let's see, what are the advantages of using Mari over Substance Painter? I would say it's personal preference. Although a lot of people seem to lean towards Substance Painter nowadays, Mari could be considered still the industry standard, but I guess it's preference. So how to create a wood face mask in Maya? Well, I know you're not going to like this answer, but basically it's modeling a face mask in Maya. I mean, what do you want me to say? Okay, guys, well, we're well over an hour. Let's do one more question, okay? And then we'll call it a day for today. And if you guys want to chat more, I posted that link to my forum. So you guys can find me there, and we can talk as much as you want. Let's see. So Emily is saying, on hard surface modeling on the film industry, like a building, how do you texture them without unwrapping the UV? Well, like I said, what you do is you create a low poly model, which has fairly no detail. Like, for example, in a building, that would basically be a box, right? Then you create a very high poly model with all the window trim and all that kind of stuff, right? Then you UV the low poly model and you unwrap it and you make sure it's all proper and everything. And then you bake the high poly model from the detail in the high poly onto the low poly model, and that will create normal maps and ambient occlusion maps and diffuse maps. And then all of these maps are put onto the low poly model, and you're done. That's how it works. You guys have such cool questions. You know, I'm just going to keep going for a minute here. Thanks, Foxy. Okay, one more question, guys. Final one. Okay, final question. The Dorian tube. Okay, a long-time supporter of my challenge. Is there any real concrete chance? So hang on, where do you go? Is there for a self-taught 3D artist to actually get into the industry? Well, the answer is really simple. Here I am. I basically did the same thing. Now, to be completely honest, I did have formal training, but I was working professionally as a 3D artist based on self-taught information. And once I started to make money, then I started to get a formal education. So is it possible? It is absolutely possible. The thing is that people get really frustrated, and I get emails from people saying, you know, I can't find a job, I can't find work, you know, I got a lot of debt, what do I do? It's not an easy industry to work in, but people seem to have this huge idea of, okay, I need to get hired by Pixar and I need to make $1 million a year and whatever. What you need to do is start to make money. So my advice would be this: if you have a job right now, you know, bagging groceries or working at a gas station or whatever, and you're spending your evenings learning 3D, start by making some money by creating a 3D logo for your next door neighbor because he needs one for his website. Offer your expertise to the local bakery or butcher or transportation company because they need something for their website. You got a company down the street that makes toys. Ask them if you can make a 3D model for a new toy that they're working on. And do all of that, learn, get online, get a strong portfolio, get a strong network, participate in challenges, and get your name out there. That's what I would do. And that's what I've done too. Okay, guys, well, that's it. I'm happy that the audio is still working. I want to thank you guys so much for participating in this stream, because without you guys, I would be talking to myself, which is kind of stupid. So thank you so much. I posted the link to my forum here, and I'll do that one more time because it would be really cool if you guys would come on in. So here it is once again. Like I said, about 2,800 friends, all 3D artists, and this is a very respectful group. Everything is in English, regardless where you're from, and whether you have 1 hour of experience or 50 years, it doesn't matter. You can post anything you like and talk about it, and people will help you. Okay. So once again, thank you all so much, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye. Bye, Riza.